guys, welcome back. I'm going to be sanding some more parts for the dually so that I can get them painted this evening. So I'm going to be sanding down this tonneau cover. I'm just going to use a DA sander flat with 320 grit, get it sanded down, ready for paint. Same thing with the inner wheel well. It'll get DA sanded. Whatever I can't get with the DA sander, I'll get with a scotch brake pad. Same thing with the core support and the inner fender up there. Now the outer side of the fender I still need to block with 180 grit, but after that I'm going to flip it over, sand the inside of that fender with 320 and a scotch brake pad, and then I'm going to leave the outside at 180 because whatever overspray gets on the outside, I will knock it down when I go to 320 it down. So my goal today is to paint the inside of that fender, the core support, inner wheel well, tonneau cover tonight. Tomorrow, if I can, I'd like to paint this engine compartment, the door jambs, and the underside of the hood, if at all possible. I have some urethane bumper covers out there. One's a bumper cover, one is a windshield wiper cowl, which is also made out of urethane. They have been sitting in the back building for a while, so they kind of got out of shape from the way they were sitting. So I've been leaving them in the sun here for about an hour now so far, and they're just about back to the shape they need to be. So if you guys ever have a urethane bumper, you know, when they come new in a box, they come folded in half. So you're going to have a line down the center of it. You can either use a hair dryer, a heat gun, or lay it in the sun. I've always had the most success leaving it in the sun for the day. That seems to really work at it and get it to lay flat. It seems like if you use a hot heat gun, it will want to go back to the way it was folded a little bit. So it takes longer with the heat gun, in my opinion, than just leaving it out in the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. It's nothing fancy, just boring DA sanding, just getting this stuff scuffed down, ready for paint. I got to clean out the spray booth still, change the filter, and then we can get this stuff painted tonight. So like I said, tomorrow, if I can get the engine compartment and the door jambs, and maybe we'll see what else. Maybe the mirrors, if I can get those done. A lot of these parts are getting painted in pieces because I don't have a choice. This has to get painted separate from the bed because this overlaps onto the bed. There's a gasket under here, so there's no way in the world I could paint this on the truck with the bed. So it is what it is. Luckily, this panel is going opposite direction from the bed itself, so it should be just fine. I painted it like this 20 years ago, and it was fine when I did it then. Same thing with the inner wheel wells, core support. You know, I'm painting this stuff and that one fender separate, and then I'll shoot the rest of this separate before I put it together, and it'll match just fine. You're not going to see it in there. There's so much going on in the engine compartment. Should be just fine. So let me get this stuff sanded down, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, everything's in the booth. Everything's been sanded off. I have to tape off the bottom side of this tonneau cover and this gasket, and then flip it back over. Excuse me. I cannot get rid of this cold or whatever I have. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get this taped off. I'm gonna use plastic and tape around here, flip it over, and then I gotta wash everything down, and we're gonna get ready to start painting. Now the only thing that really matters on this is this tonneau cover. I wanna try to get this as clean as possible. If I get a little bit of dirt in those, it's not gonna matter. You're never gonna see it. It's in the engine compartment. But still obviously gotta spray it and do a good job. But if there's a little dirt in there, I'm not going to worry about it. Try to get this as clean as possible because this is literally like painting a football field. And it's fiberglass. I might have to wipe it down with rubbing alcohol. I'm not sure yet. Once I wipe it down, I'll know. If it's staticky, I'll have to either wipe it down or spray some alcohol, rubbing alcohol on it to kill the static electricity. But let me get it taped off, and then I'll come back and we'll start wiping this stuff down and get it painted. And like I said, the fender, I'm not going to tape it off. Whatever overspray gets on here or on the other side, I'm not worried about it. It's only sanded with 180 grit. I still have to 320 grit sand it. So what I'll do is I'll get any overspray off when I sand it with 320 grit. Okay guys, I'm ready to do wax and grease remove it. And then after that, I'm going to use the Sprayway window cleaner. So I really want to saturate this down and get the dirt pulled out of the pores from sanding it with 320 grit. You want to try to get all the dirt up out of those sanding marks. Now, sit for a second, let it kind of pull the dirt out. And you want to take your towel and wipe it in one single direction. And rotate your towel every time you do it. And I can feel the static electricity on my arm hair. So we're going to have to spray this down with some rubbing alcohol. And what that's going to do is that's going to stop the static electricity that's formed on this fiberglass cover, because fiberglass, when you sand it, it sometimes will create static electricity, like when you take a balloon and you rub it on your hair and you stick it to the wall. Same concept. That's pretty much what happens with fiberglass. And if you don't kill the static electricity and you go to paint, it's going to take all the dust or whatever's in the air and it's going to stick to the panel. So it's pretty important that you get rid of that. So I'm going to wipe these parts down really good, and then I am going to blow them off, and then I'm going to use the window cleaner. So let me get these wiped off with this, and I'll come back with the window cleaner, and I'll show you how I'm going to wipe it down. Pretty much the same concept, just go over it again with the window cleaner. Okay, I blew everything off, and now I'm going to go over it with the spray away window cleaner, using a new towel. Same method again. Spray this stuff on there, let it foam up a little bit, and wipe it in one direction. The reason why you want to wipe it one direction is if you do it in swirls, and let's say there is a contaminant on here and you're swirling it around, you're doing nothing more than just swirling it around. At least if you go, you're pushing it towards the edge. So let's say you did have a problem, more than likely it's going to be on the edge than in the middle of the panel, and it'd be a little bit easier to address off to the side rather than on the whole entire panel, because you went in circles. Now the window cleaner, it definitely has more of a drag. When you wipe it, you can feel it like dragging, and that's good. I honestly think the window cleaner works as good, if not better, than the wax and grease remover, but I like to do both. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe everything down with this window cleaner, and then I'm going to blow it off again, and then we're going to get some sealer mixed up. Before we put the sealer on, I am going to spray a little bit of, after I tack cloth it, I'm going to spray a little bit of alcohol, rubbing alcohol on it, and then we'll put the sealer on after that. Okay, so basically I'm going to take my mixing cup here, and I'm going to take 97% isopropyl alcohol, I call it rubbing alcohol, and we're just going to put some in this cup, and we're going to go spray that panel down after I tack cloth it. And this is going to kill the static electricity. Now, this liner, spray liner, I can reuse this. I can wipe it out. This lid I'll throw away because I don't know, the alcohol might stay in the lid. I don't think the alcohol would do anything to the epoxy primer, but I don't want to risk it. So we'll just throw the lid away. Not a big deal. But I know the liner will just wipe right out and that won't be a big deal. So let's go out there and spray some of this on after I tack cloth it. It's going to smell like a hospital out here. Now I'm not going to spray the metal parts, only the fiberglass part. The only part that needs the static to be killed on is this part right here. Probably a second time, or maybe just blow it off. There's got to get dirt in this. a huge panel. The only way I could probably stop a lot of the dirt would be to stand it on end, but it's so big, I don't really feel comfortable hanging it in the air, because if this were to fall, probably ruin it. It's just a thin layer of fiberglass with an aluminum outer perimeter. Okay, let me grab that alcohol. See, the stuff pretty much evaporates almost instantly, hits the panel and dries. I'm just going to throw away this liner too. I'm not going to mess with it. There's a little bit of alcohol left in here. I'll throw it back in this container. Next, we're going to mix up the MP170, which looks like I'm running low on that. I should have enough for tonight and tomorrow if I get to those door jams tomorrow, which I'm hoping I can, but it's all going to depend on how long it takes me to get it prepped. But I got to get another gallon of that MP170 and 2 hardeners, because it's a 2-to-1 mix. So it takes 1 gallon of MP170 to 2 quarts of hardener. And then I put some reducer in it to thin it out so that it lays down smoother when I spray it. Okay, so we'll use our marks on our cup here, 2-to-1. Right here. Now, if I don't have a ton of this left today for the jams tomorrow, that's okay. If I can just get a real light coat on them, that's all that really matters. And I don't need to go crazy with it. Now we're going to put some slow reducer in it. I like using slow reducer, especially in the spray booth, because of air movement. When you have air movement and you use a medium or a fast hardener or a medium or fast reducer, what happens is when you spray out of your gun, that material hits that panel and starts drying. As it's hitting that panel, it's drying on you. Now what happens is it creates more texture in your paint job. When you have a slow reducer, a slow hardener, when it hits the panel, it's going to stay wet for a minute or two. While it's wet on that panel, it's going to start laying down. It's going to start flattening out because it has time to flow. If you, like I said, if you're using something fast, you're going to have a problem if you have a bunch of air movement. So that's something that you really need to think about. And you know what I mean, if you're using a bunch of fans and you can physically feel air moving, you're going to want to slow down your hardeners and your reducers. So I mixed up quite a bit here because I want to get a good coat on everything, especially those metal parts, because I had to sand through that inner wheel well because it was a new inner wheel well, and the core support because there were some stickers on there. They didn't want to come off, so I ended up just using my hamburger disc and cleaning them off down to bare metal. So I have quite a few bare metal surface area spots on those panels. So I want to make sure I get a good coat of epoxy primer on there first, because we've already used epoxy primer on the other parts, so we have to keep this consistency going. We have to have it gray before it turns white. We don't want to put white over black because that could affect the color of the finished paint job. Plus, you don't want to put base coat over bare metal. It's a no-no. You want to put down an epoxy primer. The epoxy primer is going to stick to the bare metal. Base coat's not meant to go over bare metal. Neither is 2K primer unless it says direct to metal 2K primer, which I know they do make some that do that. Same thing with body fillers. Some body fillers will say you can go over bare metal, some will not. So you just got to make sure you look at all that stuff, read all your products that you're using, and just follow the directions on them. If you do that, chances are you're going to have a real successful paint job. Even if you get dirt in it, you could wet sand and buff it out, but just follow the directions and give yourself the best chance to have a lasting job. You know what I mean? So that your job will last as long as it possibly can by using the products in the way that they were made and intended to be used. So, all right, let's go out there. I'm going to tack cloth off that tonneau cover one more time, lightly. Should not create any more static electricity. Then I might blow it off. Yeah, I think I'm going to blow it off, and then we should be ready to go. I'm just trying my best to eliminate as much dirt as possible on there. I've painted that in the past. I know what it's like. I know it's going to get dirt in it. It's just the nature of that being a literally, it's like a 4x8 sheet of fiberglass. I am going to put some gloves on. My hands are clean. I've washed them with the wax and grease remover before I even started wiping everything down. That's one thing you want to make sure that you do. Let's say you're in the middle of a paint job and you want to eat lunch or a snack or something like that, and you eat a sandwich or pizza and you get grease on your hands and you go out there and touch something, that could be bad. That could really ruin your paint job. So make sure you always clean your hands really good and wear gloves. I don't always wear gloves. I should always wear gloves. Sometimes I just get in a hurry and don't put them on. So, all right, let me turn this off for a second, get set up. We're gonna go out there and put the epoxy primer on. Okay, I'm going to mix up the white now. This is a, remember, this is a 1-to-1 mix, but this stuff was really thick. So I ended up reducing it more than 1-to-1. So I'm going to get this stirred up, mix it up, and we're going to go out there and put a coat of white on. Still too thick, I gotta reduce it a little bit more. Well, we have to stop painting. We have fish eyes. All the pieces have fish eyes in them. So one of these pieces had contaminant on it when I wiped it down, and the wax and grease remover did not get rid of it. So I'm stopping here with the first coat of base coat down. We're gonna let it dry overnight. Let's go out here and look at it. But every single part has fish eyes in it. All over the place. So one of these parts had contaminant on it, and I'm guessing it was this, because this only has it on this side. This side doesn't have it. So something got on this that the wax and grease remover and the window cleaner did not remove. So now what I'm going to do tomorrow is let this set overnight. This is where you got to try to just stop, let it go, and deal with it tomorrow. So what my plans are tomorrow now, which is going to suck, is I'm going to grab a gray Scotch-Brite pad, and I am going to use Dawn dish soap with water, and I am going to gray Scotch-Brite pad all these parts down with Dawn dish soap. Wash them down really good. Then I don't think I'll have to put epoxy primer down. I think I'll be able to just go with white again. So I'm going to try to wash everything and scrub it with the gray Scotch-Brite pad. Wipe it down, wash it off, and then start over with my wax and grease remover and my window cleaner and see if we can't fix this screw up. This happens to everybody. This does not happen to me very often. Maybe once or twice a year I'll get this happening to me. And it all boils down to something had contaminant on it and the wax and grease remover didn't take it off. So I'd rather show this on the video, show how I'm going to hopefully, fingers crossed, fix this problem tomorrow and carry on. This just puts me behind schedule because I really wanted to be working on that truck tomorrow, the body itself, but that's okay. I'll at least get the roof and the back wall and stuff sanded down and get it ready for paint. It is what it is. I need to correct this problem now. I don't want to waste a bunch of money on materials because materials are expensive. We discussed this in the last video when I started painting this stuff. When you have a problem, it's a very expensive problem. Luckily, we only have one light coat of white on it, so it's not the end of the world, but it really, really fish-eyed bad. Look at that. This is probably the worst I have seen. So I don't know what the heck was on this, guys, but we're going to try to correct this tomorrow. So make sure, if you watch this video, to come back tomorrow and watch tomorrow's video, and we're going to see if we can't correct this issue fairly easily and not have a bunch of headaches. Now tomorrow, when I sand this down with a gray Scotch brake pad with Dawn dish soap and water, clean it all, and then put a coat of white on it. If it fish eyes, I'm stopping again. I will not go any farther until I figure out how I'm going to stop the fish eyes. I might have to put a coat of clear on it. I don't know yet. You know, if that's where I have to go, if I have to put a coat of clear on it, resand all these parts down and start over, then that's what I have to do. But hopefully I don't have to go that route. I know sometimes in the past, if you get fish eyes and you sand the clear down and re-clear it, usually they'll tend to go away. But in this case, I'm getting fish eyes in the color right away, which usually doesn't happen very often. Usually fish eyes don't tend to show themselves until you put the clear on. This is an exceptional case right here, and I don't know what the heck got on it, because I wiped these parts down before I even sanded them. I washed them all down before I even sanded them. So whatever it is, it's really embedded in this surface. But I'm not going to get my, I'm not going to let it bother me. Let's just put it that way. I've been through this before. I want to take you guys through it, and now we can go through it. So just so you know, this happens to everybody. This isn't just a one-time thing that happens to one person. It happens to everybody. No matter how long you've been painting, no matter how many times you've painted and never had a problem, you're gonna encounter it at some point, somehow in your lifetime, if you're planning on painting your whole life. If I were to guess, I would say maybe that tonneau cover had some sort of weird wax on it. But like I said, I wax and grease. When I started the video this morning, it was all dusty and dirty. I wiped all that off of there multiple times with paper towels, wax and grease remover until it was clean. So I don't think it was the dust that was on it. I almost wonder if there's some sort of a silicone that somebody put on that tonneau cover, like some sort of a prep. Because keep in mind, that tonneau cover did not get 2K primer. So I went over the original paint job. I just sanded it down. So that very well could have something on there from wax or some silicone that they've sprayed on it or something over its lifetime. And obviously I carried that over into the other parts when I wiped them down with the same rag. So that just goes to show one part can contaminate everything in your booth. I'm not worried about like the air in the booth being contaminated or anything like that. It's just on the parts themselves. So we're gonna get it corrected. I hope the Dawn dish soap with the gray Scotch brake pad works. I've done it in the past, it's worked in the past, but that doesn't mean it's gonna work in this case. Every scenario is different, but we're gonna give it a shot. So make sure you guys come back tomorrow. If you watch this video, come back tomorrow and see if we get this corrected. Also, if you guys have maybe another idea that you could throw at me, somebody who's been through this as well, maybe somebody else has another idea that I don't know about of trying to take care of these, I'm open for suggestions. So please leave a message. No harm, no foul. I don't care. I mean, showing this in real life, this is really happening right now. It's 10 o'clock at night on Saturday night, and then all of my panels are fisheye. Bad. So we'll get it fixed, guys. So make sure you guys come back tomorrow, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.